Well, I'm so excited to introduce to you my friend Paula. And we were working together one on one before finding Hope After Hurt. And then she jumped into the program. And I was just curious, like in terms of emotional pain or otherwise, what caused you to just take that leap and invest in it and and go from one-on-one to community aspect of emotional healing?
Yeah, that's a that's a great question. Um, I think I was really at a place in my life where I had let all of the emotions and things build up to a point where I just knew I needed something.
Mhm.
And working one-on-one has been great, and we have continued to do that,
Yeah.
even though we've still been part of the program. But the group aspect, I just saw it as a way to approach things a little bit differently,
Mm.
and approach the healing from a different perspective because I'm actually a big believer in natural healing. I am a healthcare provider, however, and I use some traditional methods as well, but I'm a big proponent of addressing every aspect of healing. And so I saw the group aspect as the group program as a way to really just add another layer of healing to for myself.
I love that. Love that. And then if you're willing to share, um, what kind of trauma had you gone through, or what brought you into wanting to do emotional healing work, and how was it impacting your daily life? Like, what was going on with you?
Oh, yeah, that's that's a big question.
Yeah.
But I have never experienced kind of what a lot of people would look at and recognize as trauma. Looking at society's norms or definitions. I wasn't physically or sexually abused in my past. I haven't experienced any huge things. I believe now, and especially looking back and after being through a lot of these sessions, I have realized that a lot of those small little things through my life built up.
Mm.
Going through emotional trauma. I had a couple of toxic work situations that significantly impacted me. And in working through those, have kind of realized things from my childhood that
Mm.
had occurred that weren't necessarily extremely traumatic, but impacted how I view the world and how I view things. And it just kind of similar emotions came up through these other dysfunctional settings.
Mm.
And it really reached a head. I had a very difficult situation last year, where I went through a work transition, um, caused by just a really bad relationship of someone who, frankly, is dysfunctional on their own. But it led to me not being able to be myself really safely, and led to me being terminated. And I was dealing with that grief and trauma of basically being mistreated and pushed out, and
Mm.
also going through the grief of a couple of loss of loved ones through that same few month period.
Mm.
And I had just gotten to a point in my life where I knew I needed to address something deeper,
Yeah.
because dealing with things rationally wasn't working anymore. And I just knew there was something deep within me that needed to be healed, more on an energetic level. Did
Yeah.
that answer your question? I feel
Yeah,
like
that
there
was
were a
so
lot of
good.
a lot of layers to that question. Uh,
That was a great answer. And when you could you tell us a little bit about like those childhood things? Because we were kind of talking before we hit the record button.
yeah.
Tell us a little bit about like those childhood things. Like, did you think they were a big deal?
No, so I can't, if someone asked me about my childhood, I would not say, "Oh my gosh, I had all these horrible things." I had a pretty normal childhood, and things that have ended up coming up are some of those relatively normal things that
Mm.
happen or are said to a child. And really what it is, and part of this is I, again, have medical background, so I know how the brain works and how we mature and process things. But when we are under the age of about 10, 11, 12, we can't process things in a rational fashion. So these seemingly minor things, the brain, our childhood brain, makes into this huge, almost trauma,
Yes.
and creates in us these beliefs that are
Mm.
completely irrational.
Yeah.
But now that our brain is in a rational state where it can process things, we don't know how to connect the dots because it wasn't a rational belief to begin with. And
Wow.
so getting down and healing on more of an energy level is really, I feel, one of the only ways we can get through that.
Mm.
But it
Yeah.
also impacts, excuse me, I just
It's
choked on
okay.
nothing. Um, it impacts how we process those things that do then come up in adulthood. So, I
Yeah.
have these, like I said, two pretty significant, when really stepping back and looking at them, very, very dysfunctional workplaces,
Mhm.
workplace settings. And it made it very difficult for me to process through those rationally because of these beliefs I was holding from childhood. And
Yeah.
so, working on that piece of healing has really just helped me move forward and not be moving forward in fear or,
Mm.
any of those feelings and emotions that were related to those situations.
Love
So,
that. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Because I feel like so often people don't think that their past is really holding them back. And I'm like, that is the only thing holding you back.
yes,
Is
exactly. And that's kind of what I realized is, wait, there's nothing here right now that objectively is bothering me. There's got to be something deeper. And finding some of these deeper things and clearing them has just really, I don't know, I feel lighter and I feel like now I can work through things better. It's made me, and the awareness is huge. Like, just being aware that there's something there. Um it, when I react, I now know, wait a minute, this may be one of those old things. Okay, and I step back and I handle things differently with,
yeah.
my spouse, my kids, coworkers, everybody. So, yeah.
Yes. I love that so much. So I'm just curious, before we start working together, had you tried other things for emotional healing and how did they work for you?
Yeah, so one important thing is I am a Christian, so I spend a lot of time in reading the Bible and in prayer. So
Mhm.
I'd spent a lot of time in just in that.
Yeah.
Just some basic meditation. I am also a very rational thinker, so I step back and examine the situation,
Yeah.
and I've done that. In the past, I had been through a couple um, rounds of traditional counseling,
Okay.
with a psychologist, of just working through, talk therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, whatever we want to call it,
Yep.
of going through some traditional counseling. And I just was at a moment where like I said, again, I just knew there was something else that needed to be done. I just wasn't getting to the root of things. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And then how would you say being in the Finding Hope After Hurt program and being in that community, how has that impacted your emotional healing, the ability to heal, maybe even at a bigger speed, better speed, if you
mhm.
want to say that, and how you handle daily life, which you kind of did share a little bit about how you handle daily life, but just tell us about your experience in the Finding Hope After Hurt
Yeah.
community.
One thing, and actually, so I always like to tell people who may be watching, we have not rehearsed any of this. Oh, and actually, a lot of this we haven't dug into. You and I haven't even talked about
Okay.
many of these things, just because it hasn't come up.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, the program, I feel like it opened up things. So I
Mm.
think, you had referred in one of our sessions about how our healing is like an onion, like going to the good old Shrek movies for anyone who's seen Shrek. You're peeling back the layers of the onion. I like Donkey's perspective of a parfait, um, a little better, but it really is layers. And so, you know, when I first started the healing, it there were these things that I knew were a problem and these things that we uncovered quickly. And things just still weren't jiving until we kept digging and digging and digging. And so that's, I think, where the group sessions were helpful because working as a group sometimes brought up something that wasn't at the top of my mind because
Yeah.
someone else may have mentioned something and I'm like, "Oh, maybe I should work on that." And so
Mm.
really it uncovered those things that maybe were in the periphery, but actually were more related to those deeper issues.
Mm.
The other thing, which is absolutely huge and probably I think one of the most important parts of the group is I know she's like, you see her smile. It's because I haven't mentioned this yet. I've never mentioned this, is the connection.
Wow.
Because we as humans often feel we are alone and we're the only one going through struggles. Um, in the group, many of us have been shocked at how similar our struggles are,
Mm.
where we have different superficial things, but the deep layer is almost identical. And in our society, we don't get to connect on that deeper level. And
Mm.
we do often feel alone and we feel isolated. And a huge part of healing is knowing I'm not alone. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with me because I'm dealing with this because other people are dealing with it. So having that comfort and that reassurance and just being able to talk through with other people that are going through very similar things, that was an added bonus that I didn't necessarily expect to happen through the group. Like, I knew we were gonna get extra sessions, which is awesome. The extra sessions and just putting it together that way, but yeah, just that was the biggest thing that I've
Mm.
brought out of the group that I didn't expect. I
I
did
love
do it just because I was like, "I want all these different sessions," and
Yeah.
trying to schedule them one-on-one sometimes is difficult because you feel like you have 5 different needs, and it's like, "Well, which one do I schedule next?"
Yeah.
So, it was really nice to have the schedule of the group doing a lot of different modalities and a lot of different sessions, and still then adding in my individual sessions, to
Yes.
complement that.
I love that. I love that. So what have you noticed over these 12 weeks in terms of just shift in, mindset, perspective on life, maybe even relationships? What have you noticed or what have people said to you?
Yeah, the probably the 2 biggest things I've noticed are awareness,
Mm.
of noticing when I hate this term because it's so popular, but being triggered. So when I'm having a reaction to something, and I mean, the real definition is having a reaction to something that is out of the norm of that event. So
Yep.
when I'm essentially internally overreacting, I now recognize that and it leads me to question, hey, what's going on here? And then
Yep.
it gives me a path to go investigate and dig into and work on. So that's
Yeah.
huge. The other thing is being very aware and understanding of how I am interacting with others
Mm.
because of the trauma experienced by seemingly minute things. It's made me very aware of how I speak to others and how
Mm.
I deal with situations. So I'm trying to not be that person that causes trauma in someone else. So I think overall it has absolutely led to better relationships, more confidence. So I feel a little more confident, less stressed out about things. And I feel like my relationships with my kids and my husband for sure have improved. They haven't necessarily noticed it. I mean, I don't know if they've noticed it. I haven't asked them, but
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very, very different today than it was 3 months ago, or well, 4 months ago
Yeah.
before the program started. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Makes me so happy. Like I say all the time, healing never happens in a vacuum. Like it literally can't.
You can't do anything alone. You just can't.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when you're healing, you are by default bringing healing to those around you. That's just
Yes.
how it works. I love that. Um, so how would you say it's helped you build like resilience to stressful situations? Because stress is just part of daily life, right?
Yeah.
Um, so how do you feel in terms of being more resilient and how you would cope with a current or a future challenge?
I feel like I'm not as afraid of
Mm,
encountering things because I know they're coming and I know it's gonna be okay.
mm,
Um, and I also know that when emotions arise, I now have tools and resources to work through them. So I'm not as I don't hold back as much. So I
mm,
think that's part of the confidence piece where I feel more comfortable just moving forward or trying something out, because I don't feel I'm not as scared or as hopeless. Like I
mm.
love that the session. I love that the group is called "Finding Hope After Hurt" because it really is. Because you get to a point where you're like, I don't want more emotions because I don't know how I'm going to work through them. Now I'm like, eh, when something happens, it's okay. I know how to handle this now. So, which leads to something. I don't know if you have a question coming up on this, but
Oh, good.
it is an it's not something you just do once and stop. I mean, that would be like going to the gym one time and thinking that was enough to keep your body strong. Like
Yes.
you have to constantly work on your mind and constantly improve. Um, and that's what's great about the program though, is we learn tools where there are times where we need guided therapy. Absolutely. Like I need things cleared by you, but then there are other tools where I can use on my day-to-day basis where I'm like, okay, I can do this to then complement that. And that's where I think you really see the bigger growth is with the
Mhm.
combination of the two.
Absolutely, and amen. Amen.
Oh,
And then,
yes.
and I really wanted you to have tools so that you could do the journaling, you could work through and find those, deeper subconscious thoughts and have the tools to release the emotions,
Yep.
because we can't always be hanging out, even though I would love to just all day.
Right?
It just isn't realistic, but you
Mm.
have things that happen on a daily basis that you may need to process. And I want to give you those tools so you feel confident and empowered about that. I love that. So would you recommend finding hope after hurt to others? And what would you just say to someone who's just not sure, like if it's worth investing in?
So first of all, would I recommend it? 100%. I don't know of a person out there that wouldn't benefit from it. Unless you're not willing to participate.
True.
Literally, that is the only way you won't get benefit out of this program is if you don't participate. Um, Everybody who has participated, and most of us couldn't do 100% of it.
Yep.
And the growth, it was still amazing. Anybody who's hesitant, it's with many things in this life. Are you happy where you're at?
Mm.
Is your life perfect? I think we all know the answer to that. No. And I think it's one of those, you don't have to be unhappy. You can be very content and grateful with where you're at in life, but most of us can see again, I don't know a person that can't improve and grow and do better
Yeah.
and heal better and enjoy life more. And I just think it's one of those, like, what do you have to lose? Nothing. There's nothing to lose. Yes, there is absolutely a cost associated with it. There is a cost associated with anything good in this life, whether
Yep.
it be money or time or energy.
Yep.
Um, Anything that we're going to get that's good out of life it does take our effort going into it. And I really think that God created it that way on purpose
Mm.
because we we don't want to be just riding along, you know? we have to be an active participant, and it's with anything out there. If we're not actively participating in some way, shape, or form, then
Yeah,
we're not gonna get the results. Like,
yeah.
there's pride and there's ownership and it just means so much more when you're an active participant. But, I mean, I just really think it's one of those where there is literally there's not, like, any harmful side effects or any bad things that are gonna happen from this. Um, my guess is that most people are hesitant because of one of 2 things: cost, um, or fear.
Mm,
And the honesty with fear is if you don't confront it, it will never go away. And with cost is where I'm gonna come back with my personal story. I had
yeah.
been unemployed for 3 months
Mm,
right before this, and I had only started working part-time. I did not have an income. If you know in your heart that you need healing, and you believe in your heart that God will provide for you and your needs,
mm,
this is a need. And I will tell you, it has been worth every penny that I've invested, and I have never looked back or questioned it. And I have still been able to pay our mortgage and put food on the table. And I am now a few months later down the road earning a much larger income. So, I just kind of want to put that in perspective of most of us who did this program are not rolling around in piles of money.
yep.
We weren't like, "Huh, what do I do with it?" We were just, it is a need
Yeah.
because we can't be our best selves if we don't take care of ourselves.
Yes.
And as a society, we are not good at this. And
Mhm.
this is it's an investment in your health and in your future, and it will positively impact every aspect of your life. Just it will.
Yes.
And again, you're gonna see her like going, "Oh, yeah," because she has never heard these words completely come out of my mouth. So
If I was a crier, I would be bawling.
I know, I'm a little teary because because that is how much this has meant so much to me. And again, it's one of those, I am very judicious with my money. I am I am a budgeter. I really weigh things. And this is one of those things that just, it's not even a question in my mind.
Mhm.
Um, like
And
the one
I
thing I did say to you was, do you want to do the next session? I was like, yes. Well, let me give you the details. I don't care. I don't care. I, I, I will make it work. I will find a way. I don't care what the details
I
are.
give good discounts to alumni, don't I?
Well, yes, but I was like all in before I even knew
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah, I know, I know.
but
So
yeah, I mean that's one of those things is there's just so much value in it. Like I can't
wow.
just do it. Just do
I
it.
love that. I love that. And I feel like I could end there, but there's one other thing that I just feel like is so important maybe for somebody to hear. How do you feel like investing in yourself at this level has impacted your sense of self-worth?
Oh. Why am I laughing? I'm gonna I'll get back to that. I have an answer. So number like I said, I just feel like I am so much more confident in moving forward, and it has been empowering. Like
Mhm.
I feel empowered, and I know that I can do anything. Like I've got the tools to move forward and encounter anything that life brings me. The reason I laugh, self-worth is one of those things that isn't unique. You know, we are all struggling with it on one level or another. It may be just related to one area. And I just laugh because that was one of those things that in the group kept popping up like every week for at least a couple people.
Yes.
Um, and sometimes on things where we didn't expect it to pop up. And so it's just I feel more, like I said, empowered, I think is the right word. Like I feel more equipped to move forward in life. And it's one of those, if I didn't continue, I know I would be good. Like I'd be better off than I was when I started. but
Yeah,
I now also see that I have so much more potential.
I love
So
that.
related to self-worth, I now see the potential in me, even though we were talking about, like, I know I'm awesome. Like, I think I'm a cool person. I would love to hang out with me, but I had a deep belief, and I'm still working on that, that I am not worthy and I am not accepted by others, even though I accept myself. And so,
Mm.
but I see my potential. Anyway, just it's
I
good.
love that.
It's fun.
Okay. Thank you so much for just being
Yes.
vulnerable and open. And I know that this is going to bless somebody. So thank you very much.
Happy to share.